Hey there, everybody. This is going to be Week 8, 2029, Units Dynasty. I have head coach Daniel here of the Hawaiian Rainbow Warriors taking a deep dive into the Game of the Week highlights, the conference superlatives, and a new scandal.
What's up, Unit Dynasty fans? Come on.
Thank you for chipping in, Daniel. We're going to be starting off with Game of the Week highlights. We have number 18, East Carolina, at number 1, Texas State.
Absolutely crucial game for ECU here.
Indeed. We have the first play here. Looks to be 2nd and 10. ECU running it up the middle. And the touchdown. Indeed. What a block indeed. Just a huge hole opened up there in the Texas State defense. And ECU exploited it.
Yeah, may I add, both these teams were absolutely going back and forth defensively. Just a complete defensive masterclass.
Looks like we have Texas State taking shotgun and the jet sweep to get on the board. What do you think about that play, Daniel?
Ironic, honestly, quite ironic, seeing Texas State's kind of, we'll go into it later, but just ironic indeed. We see how tempo has influenced the game already.
Indeed. We can take another look at the play here. We got East Carolina trying to cut across the side, but Texas State just manages to get it in. Huge mistake by ECU there, but they do still have the lead. Let's take a look at the next highlight here. Texas State run, and they get stopped at the goal line. ECU running hurry up, or Texas State rather running hurry up. The ECU player doesn't know what team he's on. It was a flag.
Ethan, you just have to ask, in a big game like this, what the hell is going through your head in that moment?
I agree. I would be, if I was this player, I would be worried about my scholarship right now. Let's take another look at that play. You get the stop on the goal line, thinking you just stop them from scoring.
And
Cortez, the star player.
Ignorance from Cortez. Complete.
Indeed. You can't have that kind of play when you're playing big conference games here like this one.
You just can't. You can't.
It's frankly embarrassing. And he's going to definitely get memed on campus for sure. And we have our next highlight here of the game. ECU runs it in for a touchdown. Simple inside run. Can't be too upset about it. ECU went ahead and got that tutty. And that takes them up to a 10-point lead. Now, Texas State is hoping for a miracle on the next play. Or the next drive, rather. Just to try and come back and win the game. Let's see what we got here. Texas State dropping back, throwing, and it's an easy interception. What do you make of that one, Daniel?
Obviously, Texas is grasping for straws here. What else can you say? Kind of a miracle play. I think we were all expecting one of these at some point, and it just turns out it came late in the game. Definitely iced it. Kid's getting pussy tonight.
Absolutely. You can't blame Texas State for trying, but the quarterback really needs to be doing better there. The game is still in reach. You can't always try to go for that onside, and just throwing it away like that, you're really shooting yourself in the foot there.
Exactly, yeah.
And now we will be going on with conference superlatives. Why don't you go ahead and start us off with this one, Daniel?
Starting us off, we're going with American. Obviously, the new guys of the league. Call him Brooks. Call him whatever. We're starting off with Roadrunner. 2-4. Ethan, 0-2. Just 2 losses back to back. This is devastating. Recently, a 3-point loss in North Texas. What do you make of this team so far is my only question.
Well, I can't make much of them at this current point as it stands. We know many teams struggled starting out on the rebuild and the road to, trying to build a good team.
Exactly.
This team seems to be in a decent spot. They're 2-4, 0-2 in the conference and 12th in the American. But, that's not unexpected for a brand new coach coming into what appears to be an absolute terrible program.
Yeah, and let me add on to that, as we can see, offensive scheme-wise, running spread, defensive scheme, base 4-3. I mean, Navy and Liberty already running the meta pro style 3-3-5 tight. I mean, who's gonna tell this kid, right? Who's gonna tell him?
Well, it looks like we're telling him now. I mean, our advice to you, UTSA, is to, fix your schemes, take a
Mm-hmm.
look at them, work what's
Yeah.
best for you, hit the practice facility,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and, try to find what works best for you. You don't always want to use the scheme that you inherited when taking over this
Right.
team. Sometimes it's not the best. I can speak as the Ball State head coach. The pro style worked for me. Ball State
Mm-hmm.
has always had a pro style offense, and when I came to the helm there, I fit right in, but not everyone can do that. I had to change the defensive scheme to a 3-3-5 tight, and
Mm-hmm.
after seeing Texas State in that second year win their national championship with what appeared to be an insane defense,
Mm-hmm.
I just knew I had
Yeah.
to take that scheme.
Moving on to Navy. A quiet guy, 3-4. Not much going on with him right now. He's still his rookie season, but he's getting out of his shell. Recently with a pretty dominating win over Tulane. As we could see, I mean, he's 3-4, 2-1 in the conference. You have to be asking right now, what's going on in these rookies' heads? I mean, what's next for what's next for Navy? Let's see, like what's up with some of these recruits?
Absolutely, yes. Navy, you are a military academy. You may have
Mm-hmm.
some difficulty attracting players there. A lot of people don't want to spend a lot of time on a boat in the middle of the ocean, frankly. So, we applaud you for taking on this challenge, and we hope to see you grow into a beautiful, successful program. But I am definitely most interested into what you have to say, Daniel, about the Liberty Flames,
Oh
six and
my
one
God.
team, second in the American Conference, and they look pretty good right now, aren't they?
Ethan, I was excited to talk about this team. Liberty fucking Flames. We will know this team later on. We will. This rookie is going places. I mean, recently with a big win over Kent State to start the season, and recently a win over Kansas. What can this kid not do? He's a rookie, 81 overall. But, I mean, at this point, I think fans of Unit's Dynasty are starting to question how many hours does he have in the game? You know, is this kid going to get far in the playoffs? You know?
Yes, yes, very true. I think we want to, ideally keep all the rookies together in their own conference for a couple
Mm-hmm.
years, but we may need to seriously consider
Yeah.
bumping Liberty up. I mean, they're in the 80s as an overall. I think that definitely qualifies to be bumped up to another conference, especially with this record they have here. Definitely looking forward to seeing more and seeing how they perform in the postseason, assuming they can keep up this momentum. And now we will be going on to the ACC. Many are saying perhaps the new SEC. What do you think about this conference, Daniel?
Starting us off, we have Ball State. I mean, undefeated. I think everyone is asking, will he get his first ring? Will this be the season? Obviously, I think you can tell, obviously being Ball State's head coach, Connor Savage, a little injury prone this season. I'm sure you can talk about that, but overall, I mean, dominating win over Hawaii, my team, sadly, it's looking up for the Ball State right now.
Very true, yes. You bring up a really good point with Connor Savage. I love Connor. I got a real
Yeah.
special connection with the kid. He's a bright young man who makes good grades and you know kicks ass on the football field. But at the end of the day, he is getting banged up. Oftentimes, pretty much every game, we'll have to sub him out halfway through just so he can recover and rest a little bit. And
Mm,
you don't always like to see that from your bell cow back, one would say.
right. Right. And let me add on, Connor Savage has done already a lot for this franchise. I think another question would be, when is he entering the draft?
Very true. I mean, depending on how this season goes and depending on his stat line, I think he could be declaring for the draft after this postseason. I'm going to hate to see him go, but I also look forward to watching him play in the NFL and having a great career ahead of him.
Love that. Moving on, we have Temple Owls. I mean, this guy is probably the most hated in the league right now. Jet Sweep U. 8-0, 4-0 in the conference. I mean, he's doing his thing though. He's getting wins. He's getting dominating wins. He's number 3 in the entire NCAA. I mean, what else can you say? obviously I know you are gonna touch into the controversy later, but do you have any additional thoughts on Temple?
Um, Not really. I mean, in the last video for the Units Dynasty,
Hmm.
their superlative was a one trick.
Right.
And unfortunately, that is what they are. They tried to deny the allegations. They tried to uh, argue that they are capable of doing other plays and
Yeah.
winning in other fashion, but we just haven't seen that so far.
Mm.
Um, we'll see if they continue to play the way they play, though.
And then moving on to my beloved team, Hawaii. We did suffer a devastating loss to your own Ball State, but we'll be there in the playoffs, and hopefully we'll make a run instead of last year suffering a devastating loss to Tulane or not Tulane, Toledo. Um, do you have any thoughts? I mean, obviously we got that new kid, Sam Stevenson, very slept on, very slept on.
Yes, 100%. Um, how I would like to touch back on our previous game that we had face off. You are a great competitor and a great opponent.
Mm.
Um, how devastating do you think that loss was to the Hawaii fan base after, making the playoffs last year, but falling short towards the middle of the middle rounds? How devastating is this loss to the Hawaii fan base after just getting completely road ran and
Mm.
annihilated by the Ball State Cardinals?
Um, Road ran annihilated is a strong word. It was a gloomy day in Honolulu, 100%. I mean, you look around campus, there's flags. There's flags. Some say Ball State's Hawaii's daddy. I like to deny those allegations. Okay. What I'm wondering is when is Ball State and Hawaii, when are they going to stop playing each other? When is Temple going to get involved in this ACC matchup? Because right now, I mean, I think we can both say that for the past couple seasons, it seems like Temple has a free run to the conference championship.
Absolutely, Daniel. This is a great point. I'm so glad you brought this up. We need to have a serious conversation to the commissioner about this because frankly, it is bullshit that
Well worded.
Temple can go their whole season without playing a single conference user game, and for 3 years in a
Mm,
row, Ball State and Hawaii have had to face off each other. Um, it's frankly it's an embarrassment to the league that Temple is being given these free runs to the playoffs. Essentially, it is a travesty, and it needs to be addressed at the next commissioner conference.
I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. So now let's go on to our next conference here, the Big 12. What do you think, Daniel?
Obviously, we have the two-ring champ Toledo Rockets, 91 overall, 6-1, devastating loss to Bot. Don't know how, but it happened. Um, Honestly, there's a lot to say about the Rockets. Recently, rumors have it that they picked up yet another Taekwon Lord. Not confirmed yet, but reports do say that they do have another five-star quarterback in their pocket. And I think that with the tools that Toledo has this season, I think they have a good chance at making another run for a ring.
Yes, I mean, frankly, I am terrified at the idea that there is another Taekwon Lord coming to
Yeah.
Toledo.
Hmm.
It's Taekwon Lord is an amazing player. We're seeing him play in the
Yeah.
playoffs, or not in the playoffs, but we're seeing him play in the NFL for the Tennessee Titans, and he's doing some work with them. They seem to be doing better than they were previously a few years back under Will Levis and Brian Callahan.
Hmm.
Jesus, that team, whew,
Yeah. Mason
definitely
Rudolph.
huge turnaround with Taekwon Lord. Yes, but we have a team here that a lot of people like to poke fun at. Many people would call it
Hmm.
drag, and that is the USF Bulls. 4-3, 2-2 in the conference, 12th in the Big 12.
Hmm.
Uh,
Jeez.
do you think this team is a drag, Daniel?
I mean, at this point, what else would you call them? They're not contenders. They're not competitors. They're dregs. Okay. I'm sorry to say this. I'm sorry to all the USF family and friends out there listening. But I'm sorry, you guys are drag status. 86 overall. Change up the playbook. Change something. It's not working right now. There's been many points of the games, especially during that UConn game. Even last season, or even this season against Temple. I mean, just completely throwing games. Completely. An early lead leads to throwing. I mean, when are we going to stop with the picks? You know what I'm saying? I think I think we can all agree that the picks are an outstanding issue with USF.
Absolutely. And this seems to not be a quarterback issue in particular, but a scheme or coaching issue.
Hmm. Hmm.
No matter what quarterback the USF Bulls bring in, their quarterback struggles immensely. Frankly, I'm just going to have to say it. USF is ass. They
Mm,
are terrible.
yeah.
And we don't know if there's any improvements coming in the future. Speaking on improvements, though, let's take a look at the Yukon Huskies, who in previous years were considered worse than the USF Bulls,
Yeah.
but this year they seem to be actually a little competitive, despite the almost 500 record. They've gotten more wins, I think, than they almost usually ever got in a season. So huge improvement. What do you think about the Yukon Huskies here, Daniel?
Obviously, UConn has been suffering through the real rebuild phase, but I think this recent one over USF, um, I know we all tuned in for that game. Crazy comeback. I think this kid, I think he's got stuff going for him. I think maybe next year we can maybe make top 25, maybe even a playoff run. Uh, you never know with this conference, but yeah, I mean, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of UConn right now.
Indeed, and if we didn't cover this earlier, I want to address the unfair title under the Big 12. I mean,
Mm,
look at Toledo,
yeah.
two-time national championship winner, and they're playing. They're competing for the conference title against the USF Bulls and the
Hmm.
Yukon Huskies. I mean, what is that? Like, that's a joke, right?
Uh, they're definitely not competing with USF and UConn because there's no chance in hell either of those teams are making the conference championship, right? It is blatantly unfair. I think definitely we're gonna have to look at some conference changes. I mean, we touched back on Liberty Flames earlier. That would be interesting.
100%. I think Liberty would be a great addition to the Big 12 and maybe drop the Bulls down to a
Mm,
lesser conference. I mean, after all, do they deserve to be up here in the Big 12
yeah,
after taking what appears to be a big shit on their season?
yeah.
Yes, and now finally we have the Big 10, which I have marked as competitive for the most part. What are your thoughts on this, Daniel?
ECU, Texas, obviously big rivalries here. A lot are saying the ECU is Texas daddy. I don't know if you've heard the rumors, but it's definitely trending on Twitter. Today we saw a big win over Texas. Obviously, ECU suffering two bot losses, but this big user game against number one ranked Texas, I think their playoff dreams are alive. Um, I think ECU proved a lot today, and I think obviously Texas suffered a loss today, but you know, I think we're all going to see Texas and ECU maybe play off against each other in the conference, but you never know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to seeing them play for the conference championship if they do get there. It does show, as Texas only fourth in the Big Ten and 10th in the Big Ten for ECU, but
Mm.
I think at the end of the day, they'll be able to get there and compete for that conference title. And then we have the Kent State Golden Flashes. 2-5 record after, going to the postseason last year. This team has just not found their footing. You have anything to add about this team?
I think everything you said just completely sums it up. I think last week you touched up on labeled it as a free fall, a recent win, but I mean he's still falling, and there's no parachute. So, I mean we're gonna have to see.
100%.
I think his obviously I don't think he's gonna make the playoffs this year. Um, Next season we're gonna definitely have to rethink some things. Yeah, but yeah.
Yes, Kent State, my advice to you, get your shit together. What are you doing? I mean, maybe change up the scheme. Maybe air raid isn't working for you. I like the
Mm-hmm.
3-3-5 tight defense. But right now, I mean, this is just not it.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll do it for our conference superlatives. And now we go into this week's scandal. Temple. A cheeser or a mad genius? This is our newest segment, the Temple Chronicles. What are your thoughts about Temple in this recent scandal, Daniel?
I mean, the stats say it all, right? 166 receptions, 2,000 yards, run after catch. I mean, this kid just shot up to Heisman in 2 games, right? I don't see another player winning Heisman. I know there's been some talks around the league about changing some rules. Um, I don't know what to think. I think as someone who suffered against jet sweep, obviously we saw during the Texas ECU game, uh, other teams are starting to pull it out. It's becoming a scary time in the league, you know?
Indeed, and I have to tattle on myself here. I often find myself when coaching the Ball State Cardinals, if I'm in a
Mm.
pinch and I really just need to try to run the clock out, I will
Oh yeah.
abuse the jet sweep myself. I'm not proud of it, but Temple here seems to be doing it on a whole other level. Look at Andre Rambo here, who is a freshman, ranked as an 81 overall, rated, I should say, as an 81 overall, 6'2", 204 pounds, a physical receiver, but 166 receptions for 1,620 yards and 17 touchdowns. And then you
Hmm.
look at the other receivers here. Look at Wembley, Campbell, Monahan, Core. These guys are just getting snubbed from actually being able to show off their talents. It's unfair to those
Hmm.
players. And it's certainly unfair to the league that this abuse and this cheesing just continues to persist.
Well,
I hope
you.
there are some rule changes in the future that doesn't impact
Yeah.
everybody too much, but does reduce Temple's ability to just abuse the one play wonder. Essentially, is what they are.
Well, you know what they say, Ethan. Karma bites back. I mean, we're gonna have to see what this guy does during user games. He doesn't have the best record in user games, but with the recent win over ECU, I mean, you gotta think, is the jet sweep enough?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I agree. You look back at their game against USF,
Mhm. Yeah,
and
a tight one,
just
may I add.
yeah,
Very tight game.
yes, and that's against the dreg of the league, winning
Yeah,
by 1 point.
yeah.
This
Hmm.
is what happens when you become a one-trick wonder and you abuse the AI. You simply fall short in the big moments. Now, you got lucky there with that game against the Dreg, but that game should have been a blowout for Temple's
Hmm.
record and their standing, their prestige. Um, we will have to see how Temple continues their play in the future. And honestly, I'm looking forward to the day where we can finally expose Temple for the fraud they are when they are no longer able to abuse the one play.
Mm.
Do you have anything else to add, Daniel, for this segment?
I think we touched all bases here.
Alrighty, everybody, that is going to be it for our Week 8 2029 Units Dynasty show. We hope you enjoyed the segments this week. Please comment down below if there are any other segments or ideas you have or things you'd like us to touch on. This is my co host, Daniel, and we will see y'all next time.